Business is back in Spokane, but workers, well, turns out they're hard to come by. We'll explain the challenges this is causing some business owners to face.
Pretty much everything he's touched has been successful.
Renowned businessman and owner of the Coeur d'Alene Resort, Dwayne Hagedon, passed away over the weekend. Tonight we're hearing more about the legacy and permanent mark he leaves behind.
State lawmakers passed a number of measures in Olympia before the legislative session ended over the weekend. Lawmakers also approved an overhaul of Washington's approach to drug possessions. Well, the details tonight.
We are tracking scattered showers through the early evening hours, and then I've got sunshine for part of your Tuesday forecast next.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here for KREM 2 News at 6 o'clock. I'm Whitney Ward.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Mark Hanrahan. At the last minute, the Washington legislature passed a bill to recriminalize drug possession. This after the state Supreme Court ruled that previous law was unconstitutional.
Tonight, KREM 2's Casey Decker explains how the new law is different.
Earlier this year, the state Supreme Court struck down Washington's felony drug possession law. Their issue with the law? Under it, even if you didn't know you had drugs on you, you could still be convicted. Once that law was gone, that meant there was no law making possessing small amounts of drugs, any drugs, a crime. Local police told us they stopped arresting people for possession. Some people were even let out of jail or prison as a result. But even some fervent criminal justice reformers felt this wasn't a permanent solution. So the state legislature had to scramble to come up with a replacement law, one that complied with the court ruling. They could have simply added the word knowingly to the old law and left it at that, but that isn't what they did. Instead, they passed a 45-page bill that includes some pretty significant changes to how drugs are treated in Washington. First things first, they did add the word knowingly to basically all of the state's drug statutes. But under this bill, possession of small amounts of drugs would become a misdemeanor, not a felony. That means the most someone could get would be 90 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. Some lawmakers wanted to make it a gross misdemeanor, which would carry harsher punishments, but those attempts failed. And treatment is what the vast majority of this bill deals with. It creates a large committee to basically come up with a new statewide approach to drug treatment and provides millions of dollars to that end. The bill passed the House overwhelmingly, but narrowly passed the Senate, where conservative lawmakers raised concerns that a misdemeanor isn't enough of an incentive to get people into treatment. Governor Inslee hasn't signed the bill yet, but he expressed support for it today.
We'd like people to get treatment. We want to help them get treatment. And we want to have some incentive that they do so. And I think that was the general tenor of where the legislature ended up.
Casey Decker, KREM 2 News.
We also spoke with Spokane Police Chief Craig Meidel today about how this bill will affect operations on the ground. He said, for one, because it's a misdemeanor, officers would usually give people citations to appear in court rather than bringing them straight to jail. And he shared those concerns about a misdemeanor not being a strong enough incentive to get people into treatment. But he says, simply put, it's still too early to really know what effect, if any, this will have.
In the end, I would say that the biggest takeaway is we have yet to see what kind of impact this is going to have on our city. And so that time will tell as far as, is this truly a good thing for the community, or is this something that we need to look at the data, and does the data tell us this isn't going to be as productive as the former bill, or maybe it is.
Meantime, a bill aimed at preventing wildfires has been signed into law by Governor Jay Inslee as of today.
That bill is going to open up $125 million every 2 years to boost wildfire response and restoration and management. It will also improve warning and communication systems and reinforce ground and air firefighting resources.
I've been in the fire service here for 36 years, and it just seems to get worse every year for wildfire.
Researchers looking closely at the dangers of wildfire smoke. Experts say tiny smoke particles are much worse for your lungs than we previously thought. A study published in the scientific journal Nature Communications found particles in wildfire smoke can be up to 10 times more harmful to humans than other forms of pollution, including car exhaust. Experts say one solution is more prescribed burns. Those are intentional fires designed to reduce the risk of larger wildfires. Did state lawmakers pave the way for a creation of a state income tax? Republicans say that's exactly what happened when lawmakers established a capital gains tax over the weekend. Our Drew Mickelson from our sister station in Seattle asked Governor Inslee today if he can assure taxpayers that that won't happen.
The first all-masked And mostly virtual legislative session will also be remembered for the passage of several major pieces of legislation.
Black Lives Matter!
The impact of police reform bills, restrictions on where gun owners can carry their weapons, and bills aimed at cleaning up the environment will likely be felt long after the pandemic. But Republicans seem most concerned about the new capital gains tax, going after the state's top investment earners to help expand child care and to build new schools. According to the bill's sponsors, fewer than 1% of the state's taxpayers, about 9,000 people, will have to pay it, and only after their annual investments top $250,000. They'll pay a 7% tax on those profits. The sale of properties and retirement accounts are exempt, but critics fear those rules will expand.
Is there any doubt in any of your minds that this limited scope that we have right now will be expanded?
True. The governor's own budget says he wants it at 9% on $25,000.
It is step one to institute a broad-based income tax.
Republicans say the tax is unneeded and unconstitutional in a state where income taxes are illegal.
I think it's very fair. It is a rate that's quite low.
We asked Governor Jay Inslee if he would assure taxpayers he won't expand the threshold for the new tax.
I have no plans to do so, and I haven't heard any discussion about doing that. So the Republicans have been fighting for an unfair tax system for decades. And to some degree, they won that fight until yesterday.
Developments there. In the meantime, we want to turn things back over to Tom Sherry, as we certainly had kind of an up and down day. The sun, though, is shining beautifully right about now. Do you think that we're going to have more rain showers throughout the evening, or are we done with that?
Oh, they're tapering off. I'm not saying we're not going to see some areas that will get a few showers, but as we get more and more into the evening hours, you'll see less and less rain and less cloud cover, quite frankly. We'll see sunshine for much of your Tuesday, and then temperatures climbing into the mid-60s on Tuesday. We should actually get well above average into the 70s Thursday, Friday, and into Saturday. Again, we'll look for increasing clouds later this week, but boy, I think we're going to see some beautiful sunshine tomorrow. Right now, partly cloudy skies at 57 degrees. You can see the wind is out of the southwest at 7 miles per hour. Look at there. You can see the radar shows decreasing showers everywhere. Now, there are still some rain showers. I'm not trying to say there's not, but it's not nearly as numerous or widespread as we saw earlier this afternoon. Overnight, we'll look for dry conditions, partly cloudy and 37, 65 the expected high tomorrow, sunshine, and then becoming with more cloud cover moving in by, say, this time tomorrow evening. I'm always looking ahead to the weekend. I've got 70 on Saturday, slight chance of showers and breezy, 65 on Sunday. I'll check the rest of your 10-day outlook, all coming up in a few minutes.
Looking forward to that, Tom. Thank you very much. For the first time in about 40 years, Spokane Public Schools proposed major changes to school boundaries, and tonight SPS is holding their final community forum to discuss those changes to their schools. That meeting will focus on Southside schools like Ferris High School, Adams, Franklin, and Grant Elementary schools. The meeting goes from 6:30 p.m. until 8 p.m. If you'd like information on the potential changes or how to take part in that meeting, just text us the word school to 509-448-2000 and we'll send that link directly to your phone.
Also tomorrow, SPS will hold another public forum to discuss changing the mascot at North Central High School. They've been using and known as the Indians for decades, but just today the state legislature approved a ban on all Native American mascots and logos. And while some of you at home might be saying, what is the big deal? I spoke with one young woman, a student at North Central today, who told us why now is exactly the time for a change.
Back in the 1920s, the Indian mascot kind of came to be as a way to memorialize after the Indian Wars. From my perspective, it's kind of served as a way to keep my identity in a box. We have to consider the implications of the language regarding what we use here. When I hear the war whoops at the football games, or when leadership posts, come get your war paint at the basketball game. It's this unintentional, malicious behavior that occurs because we perpetuate the stereotypes. And I'm not saying that anyone who's opposed to this is a bad person or that they're trying to do harm, but harm is being done.
Yeah, what do you say to those people who say that they are trying to honor the Native American contributions and that fierce warrior persona that we might have of these Native American cultures?
I say that it makes it extremely difficult to validate my own identity when I'm constantly being shown images of what I should look like or how I should act. And it's really just this dehumanizing image that casts aside the struggles of Indigenous people today. Yes, I think a lot of people like to rely on this fact that, or on this idea that mascots honor Indigenous people. And I can tell you that I don't feel honored. You know, the Spokane tribe doesn't feel honored. And so how can this be perpetuated when we are telling you it doesn't feel right?
This conversation dates back decades. Is there a part of you that is surprised that still in this day and age, this year, 2021, we're still having that same conversation?
I'm not surprised, no. I think that's a great point, though, when we talk about, you know, if people are saying, what's the harm? Why do we have to change now? Well, this conversation has been happening for decades. So why has no change come? I hope that everyone can see that we want to have fun with a mascot. I think the alumni want to be able to have fun. I want to be able to have fun with something like a marmot. That's fun to be able to chant at a football game, you know? And so if we can find something that makes everyone feel happy and recognize that we're not trying to erase our history, we're just trying to make sure that we can continue in a way that makes everyone feel safe. At North Central, we say, you know, we are family always. And so how do we make sure that's true for every single person in the building?
So again, that public forum is going to be taking place tomorrow night. The meeting will be on Zoom from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. You can visit the SPS website to register, to attend, or to give your public comment.